On this episode,
sleep paralysis, and what's the possibility that these people that are experiencing these abductions, or is it really just sleep paralysis?
conspiracy is not fake. A conspiracy just means there is an intentional effort to deceive.
It doesn't have to be your prototypical, like, Sherlock Holmes mystery. There's a mystery in everything, in every novel you read, right? James Fox, if you're listening, please come on our show, dude. I'd love to have you.
Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Dive into these histories, cocktails and conspiracies. Raise your glass to mysteries, cocktails and conspiracies. Uncover those anomalies, cocktails and conspiracies.
Raise your glass to mystery. It's cocktails and conspiracy. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. That was not intentionally rhyming here. Across the nation or around the world, my name is Shane Squarick here. As always, back in 2025 with the Mr. Phillips.
Yo, what up, buddy?
Here we are, baby. We made it to what we're dubbing as season 2 of Cocktails and Conspiracies. Raise your glass. Cheers.
That we did.
We got a comment
Cheers,
the other day that says there wasn't a lot of drinking by us, so I'm hoping to make up for that headed into the new year.
Did we really?
Make
I missed that one.
Cocktails. Well, he said, I'm the only one of the three of us that's actually drinking during this episode. It was the Hollow Moon Theory one, a great one to close out 2024 for us. It was a fun year. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it was the beginning of us doing this. That was fun, right? There was certainly a shit ton of content to cover.
Yeah.
Things that were relevant and pertinent in the news now that fit into our world. So, yeah, man, it was wild. Strange times to be alive, buddy.
Strange times indeed. And for listeners that have been with us for a while, this episode we're largely going to kind of recap what happened in 2024 from our show, our podcast, to the real world and kind of mishmash beyond. Give you a sneak peek at what we're looking to do heading into 2025. If it's your first time here, we hope you enjoy what you hear. We hope you click that like and subscribe button and stick around a little longer for us. But beyond that, it's interesting because when we began this journey, we've said this a lot, especially in those early episodes. It was something that we kind of just envisioned doing amongst ourselves because we were doing it anyway. And we decided that we were just going to record ourselves talking, throw it up on the internet. And if a handful of our friends and family watch some of these episodes, good enough for us. We're getting some things off our chest. And in large part, the show really started as called Conspiracy Realist. And that kind of sits as maybe the brand behind the scenes for those that weren't with us from the very beginning here. That's the website. That's a lot of where the media stuff kind of resides in there. And the reason for that, the reason we switched to Cocktails as a Conspiracies is because, we're drinking and it's a little more catchy. But the reason
sounds so much better.
It does sound better. It does. And again, cheers. If any of you liquor companies out there want to throw us a sponsorship, we're certainly open to it. We're not promoting anybody though, but we can endorse things. The reason we kind of came up with the conspiracy realist phrase and I guess mantra is because as friends talked about this stuff off camera, we always tried to look at it with a very realistic mindset. What's the evidence? Where does it come from? And I think that's, Tim, where we kind of that was our entry point into this because most of the stuff we saw out there was always just you either had to know everything about a conspiracy theory to play catch up, or it was just so off the wall that it just you were by the end of it you knew this was kind of a joke. There's a few out there that kind of walked the line pretty well, but there were not a lot, and that really served as our entry point. No, am I just delusional in thinking that?
No, I mean, that's exactly what we wanted to do. We were bullshitting about all this stuff anyway. And to your point, whenever look, you and I have personally been talking about this stuff for a long time. It's a whole, community of our, friends and mutual friends that all kind of bullshit about this in different group chats and whatnot. And, we all, for the most part, just about everybody within that group, they're all very based and grounded for the most part.
Yeah.
And we all kind of have a good conversation about, like, all right, so, like, this is what is going on, right? Like, what's Occam's razor? What's the most, like, what's the easiest solution that it could possibly be? And then let's just kind of, like, rule shit out from there, right? And sometimes we get real wacky with it because it's fun and we're just kind of, we're messing around. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, it's, we are the conspiracy realists. We want to be a little bit more real about it, We want to have fun.
I love the reference to Occam's razor. I used that in another podcast, and I thought you were going to fall off the back of your chair when I said it on the call. So I like kind of that full circle moment right there.
There we go.
Coming into this, I know this, I guess, but for the benefit of the audience, what was the conspiracy that really drug you, not that got you into conspiracies, because we've been through that road, but like that you came into this year knowing, all right, like this is like kind of my bread and butter, this is where I'm going to thrive, this is what I want to talk about the most. What was that for you?
Dude, you know what that is. It was
I know what that
Ghost
is.
episode. It was the Ghost episode, which I am proud to say.
What I thought you were going to say. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, all right. Well, look, I love everything that we did. Well, there was a few where I was, I'll be honest, a little lost and halfway falling asleep halfway through. But, the one that I really, really wanted to talk about, because I love it so much, is the paranormal. So that Ghost episode that we did, and as I was going to mention, to date, is still our most viewed episode of any. That's my favorite one. What did you think I was going to say? Was it the Ancient Egypt?
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about
that was
ancient
good
Egypt
too.
quite a bit.
Yeah,
I know you're really into all the ancient civilizations, ancient architecture, particularly like pyramids and things like that. Maybe even a little bit Göbekli Tepe, but the Ghost, that one slipped my mind. That was episode. I'm trying to pull it here, 129. For those out there that haven't seen it, Ghost, Shadows, and the Legacy of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Again, it's our most viewed episode. Ironically, that was supposed to come out on Halloween night, which fell on a Thursday this year, and we experienced our very first. We got to use our words carefully here. Our very first strike.
You got a little slap on the hand.
Yeah, I don't remember what was coming out before that threw everything off for us, but
I do, but I don't even think we could say it.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't say it.
Yeah.
You know what? I know what the episode was, actually, now that I think about it. The episode is the Antikythera mechanism, which is a really fascinating device. Unfortunately, some of the content that was talked in that one just kind of, it set off some trigger words, and the algorithm didn't like us. So it threw off our timeline on that episode. We would have loved to have released it on Halloween night. Nevertheless, it's still to this day is our best, most viewed episode. Maybe not best, most viewed. Best is subjective. So we do encourage you to go out and check that one back out.
I think it's our best. I think we did a fantastic job. It was a great episode. No episode could be better. It was the best.
Wow, that's a bold proclamation right there for what we've done so far this year. I'll tell you, I was definitely up there. It's one I thoroughly enjoyed for sure. A lot of these I thoroughly enjoyed. Do you think that your mindset has changed at all on any of the theories or conspiracies that we've covered, either in favor or in opposition of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the Zodiac color that we did, right? I mean, I think that when we started that episode, I said something to the effect of, like, Lee Allen is the killer. Like, you're not changing my mind, right? And by the time we finished that episode, you know what's really funny? I don't know why. I have trouble sleeping. You know this. Audience, I have trouble sleeping. My mind races. Not in bad ways. I just think about things, right? I have ideas. And I was thinking about this last night, and I'll segue into what I was thinking about, but by the time we were done with that episode, I was like, oh shit, maybe there really was no Zodiac killer. Maybe there really wasn't one at all. Segueing into what I was thinking about last night, and I don't want to get too deep into any specific episodes right now, but we were talking about specific murders and, who could have done this murder, who could have done that murder. And there was the one murder, I couldn't tell you the young couple that was killed, but they were by the lake. Actually, the guy survived. The girl did not. And
their names slipped my mind at this time. But
I couldn't. Dude, I'm so bad with, like, fine details. Like, I can tell you, like, the basic gist of stories. Like, I'll watch a million documentaries, and I can tell you basically what it's about. But if you want to know names, you're fucked.
We have to have our research in front of us.
Exactly. I have good recall, not that good. Anyway, point being, I was thinking to myself how that specific killing, right? That was the drawing of the Zodiac. He's got the, he's got the symbol on the chest. He's wearing the wacky looking hood. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, we had determined that maybe there really wasn't a Zodiac. In reality, that might have been the only Zodiac, right? Because it could have potentially been a copycat, and that copycat is actually the one true Zodiac. What do you think about that? Think about it. If that was a copycat killing,
Yeah.
and he dressed like the quote-unquote Zodiac,
Right. That was the only...
that's the
Zodiac
only
killer.
true Zodiac
Right,
killing.
right.
That person, so there is a Zodiac killer, and that's the only one.
That's the one. I get what you're saying, but the Zodiac killer really became a thing because of the letters that were being written, saying that I am the Zodiac. So, yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thought, like an interesting perspective of, because that is the first and the only time that he was presented in such a way that made his physical appearance. And that's why, going back to that episode, which is episode 132, only a few weeks ago, it came off the tailspin of the Netflix documentaries that just came out. But that's really the only time. That one was so different from the other incidents that had happened, in that everything was, it was daytime. The way he went about doing it was different. He was dressed up over the top, standing in the middle of, a huge public park. There were so many different things about that. So yeah, that seems like a manufactured, like, slap it in your face, like, intentionally, I want you to see this moment. But you could be right. Like, that's, if that is a copycat now, this is the first and really the only official physical form of the Zodiac. But that's a really easy way to say, like, hey, by the way, I'm part of these Zodiac things. Don't look at me, whoever actually is behind
who knows
that exact situation. Yeah, that was a fun one too, man. And that was one for me where I was with you too. My opinion on Arthur Leon has wavered back and forth, because I've digested a lot of the Zodiac for many, many years, for probably a good decade or plus. Actually, I keep saying decade, but then, like, I realized that, like,
how old you are?
Kids are almost right. Like, a decade is actually not that long ago anymore. So it's really almost like 2 decades now. I'm getting old. I'm almost 40 now. So yeah, 2 decades put me back into to that area. So for 2 decades, or just about there, I've jumped back and forth between all the popular mainstream people and some of the off the side ones. Excuse me, that have popped up in other documentaries. And it really wasn't until the research for the Zodiac episode that I came up with the idea. Well, I didn't come up with it. I borrowed the idea from somebody else that there probably wasn't one at all. And that was really fascinating to me, because it kind of, like, it was vindicating, but at the same time, it's like, what have I known all this time,
Right. And I think if you had to pit it on one person, the most likely suspect is still Arthur Lee Allen. But what we talked about, the possibility of there not actually being one specific person called the Zodiac, I think it's definitely plausible.
Yeah, when we posted that episode up on Reddit, which is something I started to get really in the habit of, just because it gives us kind of instant feedback on a lot of the episodes and exposes us to a lot of people. Reddit's always a crapshoot, because you're getting people that are either in favor and they're willing to have a really great conversation, or they're not and they're willing to slander you. That episode, despite the fact that it actually performed modestly well in terms of our channel. Sorry, I've got a weird cough that just won't go away all of a sudden. Despite the fact that it performed modestly well.
Smart dust.
It's that smart dust, yeah. Good, another conspiracy. That got torched on Reddit because most people, and I had a couple people actually, like, engaged in conversation with me, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this sub for the Zodiac Killer is only interested in speaking about Arthur Lee Allen. There is no other opinions here, and anybody that presents anything else, they don't even read it. Shoot it right down to the bottom. So it's a hot topic. It's one that I'm sure will come up again and again. And it's one that, for our own sake, that maybe we'll cover again in a year or two, because it's fun, and new evidence does come out as ciphers are broken, and with the advent of AI, a lot can change in the development of what happens in these ciphers, and who knows.
Actually, that's pretty interesting, dude. I didn't think about that.
Well,
you know what? I would be really interested to use AI and just kind of feed it our thoughts on some of these conspiracies in general, and just see what it has to say. You ever done anything like that? You're more into AI than I am. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So the problem that you're going to run into right now with a lot of these models is that, because they were the mainstream models I'm going to speak of, I know you can download and install your own LLM for those that are into technology. large language model. The problem you're going to run into is that they're very much neutered, for lack of a better word, in that they have parameters controlled around them. They won't talk about certain things.
Yeah.
And because people kind of abused them early on, they've got certain functions set up where, like, if you ask specific questions, it'll kind of come back at you and tell you that it's not going to answer it at all.
Yeah.
If you were to set up your own large language model, which is not as hard as it sounds anymore, because a lot of these new like AI startups will come off the same base. You trained it up on yourself and you gave it information to train it. I think it's plausible to do that. Again, there is a bias that you're training it with. So for some of that stuff, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Again, sorry, I'm going to cough again here.
So I've actually used it a little bit more recently, and nothing having to do with conspiracy, but just kind of like testing some certain things, right? Different kind of theories, and kind of ask like follow up deeper questions, and kind of wanting it to elaborate and think in different ways. So I wonder, and other than doing that, like I really haven't trained AI at all. So I wonder what mine would come back like, as opposed to somebody like you, who I know has used it a little bit more and has kind of done some more training with the models that you use.
Right, but you're still using like a chat GPT per se that...
Right,
you're
still going to
working
have
with
those
the
biases.
umbrella. Now, you
Right.
can, again, create the wrapper where it has like specific instructions in there, and it's... Using the word role-playing for them are really good, or hypothetical, because then it'll start to talk to you. Like when I want to ask it about conspiracies and to help me analyze something, I have to talk to it about being like, all right, let's be hypothetical for a minute. Let's assume that all these fringe facts, the pseudoscience is real, things like that. When you start to work on your own kind of independent large language model, effectively what you're doing is you're separating from that. You're separating from the boundaries that are ChatGPT on like a local installation. And I think you're going to see that start to become more prominent in the next 1 to 2 years. It's already becoming prominent now, but you're going to see companies pop up that have smart speakers or smart devices that you could set up that are very localized AI that might just reach out to the cloud periodically to run an update, to update its core memory. But you'll be able to start to train it literally directly on your own personal data, which is where the data security comes in there and why they want to localize it. But
you know what? I think you said a key word, telling it to be or think in hypotheticals. I think I need to do that a little bit more, because I find that sometimes, even if I ask a follow-up question, and it might be like a similar question to my original, and I might tweak a few words, I'm getting almost the same response. So I'm kind of like, oh, fuck this thing. This thing isn't half as cool as Joe Rogan makes it seem.
Yeah, it's a lot of prompt engineering. That's really what it comes down to, which is why, when people panic that AI is going to replace their jobs, it's not. It's machine learning. It's not AI. I've beat that drum 1,000 times on the show. It's only going to produce what you put in. It's just going to do it at a faster pace. It's the same thing as getting a computer and typing instead of writing a paper or doing your research. It just expedites the process. But
oh, dude, it's great. Like I use it for show prep sometimes. Like I will certainly. I do it all the time. It's so much easier than me sitting and have there browse 700 different sites, right? And it's a lot easier just to give me an outline for what I want to talk about.
It's fun for listeners out there. There's Anthropic's Cloud AI, Grok is out there from X. There's plenty of them out there. Google's Gemini, I feel like, is probably the worst of all of them, although they've been making strides in the strength of it. It's very neutered. But it's fun if you guys want to sit and just dive down a rabbit hole for lesser known conspiracy theories. And that's really how we found the basis for the website, conspiracyrealist.com, which we're, again, rebuilding again, just to kind of put up some new stories, is I'll look for derivatives of main stories and branch them out rather than just like, the main meat and potatoes. Because if you just go in there and ask them for that, you're going to get the main stuff. You're going to get all the main narratives. You got to dig deep, and you almost got to talk to it like it's a person and have a conversation. So it's a fun way to kind of do some research. Again, it's not going to be super accurate. Podcasts like ours and many of the other ones out there will kind of find some of the off the script stuff that you might want to talk about. And that's really, a direction that you want to go to kind of elaborate on the subject a little bit more. But
so I actually used it last night, and I again couldn't sleep because I'm just thinking. And I had seen some video. I don't remember where I saw it, and it was all right. What's the best way to phrase this? So there was a certain person in Germany in the 1940s, and this video was stating that some of the literature that was destroyed by that person's party were actually wasn't necessarily so bad as one might think it should be, if you could read
Right.
between the lines. And I was like, is that true? So I was like,
Right.
let's see what ChatGPT has to say about it. So I asked that initial question, and it gave me like a whole, list. And I'm like, okay, but what about these specific topics? And it just kept coming back and giving me that same list,
Yeah.
the same list, the same list. And
You're
I'm like,
hitting-
no,
you're hitting
I
walls
want to
now.
know about
Yeah,
those
yeah.
topics. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
They're trying to gatekeep a little bit with that.
yeah.
There are like voice converters
Yeah.
that are going to allow you to start to translate a lot of like things that you've heard in the past from texts to speeches.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not with perfect accuracy because in any translation there is some leniency on there, but I think in the next few years we're going to start to see a lot of things come out across the spectrum with conspiracy that might catch people by surprise a little bit because you're going to be able to hear it kind of in their own words, that person's own words,
Yeah.
without a third-party translator, with a translator that's translated thousands of things at once. And that, to me, is going to be an interesting time.
That'll be fun.
Speaking of interesting times, we've covered quite a bit of spectrum in terms of time from, ancient civilizations, not quite Jurassic dinosaur eras yet, but all the way to modern day conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Is there anything, any episode, any conspiracy that sticks out to you where going into you figured like, I don't even know why we're talking about this. How is this? What is there? Why is there a conspiracy around this? What could there possibly be? What is that conspiracy?
Probably Flat Earth. Flat Earth for me, which is kind of like, because I just thought it was so dumb. And look, I don't think it's, even coming out of that episode, I still think it's pretty dumb. But there were a few things that we talked about, and I couldn't even tell you what they were off the top of my head, but I do, like, if I went back and watched it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was it. Like, there were a few specific nuances within that topic that I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. I never thought about it that way. And it just made me kind of look at it in a different light. But to me, that one was, I think I shit all over that episode, like, as we were starting it. Like, I think I might have opened with like, hey, Flat Earthers, you're an idiot.
Yeah, that was not an episode I think you were thrilled to do. And it's one that we've always get asked about. Like anytime I spoke to people that heard we were doing a conspiracy theory podcast. Well, two things. One, first, when people think conspiracy theory, they immediately think tinfoil hat, this is fake. It's got to be fake. That's what a conspiracy is. And that was one of the things when starting the show I really wanted to kind of dispel, because a conspiracy is not fake. A conspiracy just means there is an intentional effort to deceive.
Right.
Conspiracies like MK Ultra are real. They are proven as real programs that have happened. Like there's plenty of that stuff that happens all the time. There's conspiracies in professional sports where referees were rigging games. That's not tinfoil. That actually happened. There are lawsuits and there are rules around. That's
Happened
why
in the
sports
NBA.
betting wasn't popular.
Yep.
Right. Happened all over the place. So that it sort of grabbed this like negative connotation over the last several decades because of that, and that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But the first thing that people would ask when I would say, "Hey, we're doing a conspiracy theory podcast now," oh, what do you think about flat Earth? What do you think about flat Earth? Partially joking,
Yeah.
partially curious to know what our thoughts were, and I've had like a secret obsession with flat Earth for probably the past 2 or 3 years. Not because I've believed it, but largely because of the same things you said, Tim, is there are certain things that are said that on the surface you're like, okay, well, that's interesting. I've never thought about it in that particular way. What I found in listening to a lot of people in flat Earth is two things. One, if they believe flat Earth, they are in it. Like it is.
Oh yeah.
There isn't like a separation in conspiracy. Everything is tied to flat Earth.
Yeah.
And again, there's one specific example I want to use. I don't want to say that word on here, but a certain thing that happened just 5 years ago now, in an era when we all got kind of locked away for a little while. That's related to flat Earth. The moon landing, of course, is related to flat Earth. Everything in between is related to flat Earth. That always drove me crazy because, much like any conspiracies, and we've mentioned this plenty of times in the show, if you want to prove a conspiracy true, you have to weed out the crap.
Yeah.
And far too often when there's, I don't even want to use the word influencer in the space, but when there's a person that's sort of at the forefront of a conspiracy, they're the the foremost expert. They're the most researched on that conspiracy. They're the people that other people believe the most. What they end up doing is when they don't have an answer, they try to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
They try to just make it up. And the problem with that is that you're creating loopholes. And even though it's speculation on your part, you're piecing things together to make the conspiracy work in your mind. And all that has to happen is somebody has to come over and poke one hole in that, and the whole conspiracy is dead.
Right.
Nobody's going to believe anything you're saying because they just proved one thing. Even though 99% of everything else you could have said was true.
Sure.
If that 1% is false, it doesn't matter what the official narrative can be 99% false, and they say one thing is true. When you're trying to position a conspiracy, you have to be dead accurate, and you need to stay in your lane. You need to back off. And that's the thing that always bothered me with the flat earthers is there was no separation. It was you're all in or you're all out. And it was funny as I did research for that one, like watching this is over years, trying to understand the logic. That's what I love about conspiracies is I love to understand why people believe in them. I don't care if they're true or not. That's almost irrelevant to me, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, certain ones I'd say.
Oh, right. Like for the most part, I mean, there's certain ones obviously that impact us a lot more, but for the most part, the validity in them is pointless. It's the fun of the understanding as to why, what is behind it.
Well, it's a mystery.
It manufactured from something else. It's a mystery.
It's a mystery,
yes.
right? I mean, look, there were movies made about. Well, I mean, look, if you think about it, right? Every movie ever made really has some kind of a hint of mystery to it, right? It doesn't have to be your prototypical like Sherlock Holmes mystery. There's a mystery in everything, in every novel you read, right? So. A great conspiracy is just a great mystery at the end of the day, and the unknown is what's fun about it, and trying to unearth that and find out, hey, especially the most fantastic ones, right? Like those are the most fun for me, like the cryptozoology, right? Like is Bigfoot real? I'm not saying I think Bigfoot's real, but it's fun to think about. The Loch Ness Monster, that's fun to think about. Aliens, that's fun to think about.
Yep.
The what could be. It almost kind of like engages that little kid that's still inside of us all.
Absolutely. And it kind of unlocks the idea that if this becomes true, what else is out there? Like, what don't we know? It changes your perspective on life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the things with a lot of these conspiracies. Like we've talked about John Titor numerous times. It's one of my favorites. Yep. We know now definitively it's fake, right? We've spoken to the person that was behind it. And hopefully we'll get them on the show to talk about that in the future.
Yeah, I don't think that information has come out officially yet, but we know it's not true.
It is out there quite a bit. As I've dug around a little bit more, that particular person has said it numerous times.
I'm so glad that you just said that because, dude, my butthole just tightened and I'm like, oh, what is he saying right now?
It's his name is dropped on the Y Files, which is a significantly bigger show than ours. Outright. They said, and he wrote them a message and everything. Said, yes, it's me.
Fair enough.
He's got the definitive proof that he can show to prove it, and I think he's about to do that soon. So we're going to talk about that again soon.
Yeah,
but that
was a big one for us.
That was heartbreaking to me, and part of it is like I wanted it to be real. So
yeah, we talked about that for years, dude. I mean, seriously, it could be 20 years that you and I. Have been discussing the whole John Titor story, if not more. I mean, that was a big one for us. So I hear you, man. When we found out, it was a little soul crushing, right? And it wasn't because we were blinded by like, oh, like I really think this is true. It was like I just want it to be true. Like, how cool would that be?
Right. Yeah, that was definitely it. I think you nailed it. Is we knew as he was saying it, we knew what he was saying. That was just that confirmation that, all right, well. Here we go. There's such a fantastical story, though, and I think that can be said with a lot of the conspiracies that are out there. It's sometimes people just want them to be real so bad.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a justification. Maybe it's like a wish. Maybe it's an excuse. It's a way to blame something that's happened, an atrocity. Now you have a reason behind it. I don't know. It could really range. But
well, you know what it is too? When people get so invested in one particular thing and spend so much time and energy to then find out that all that work and time and effort and energy that you put into it isn't real, that's a tough pill to swallow for some people,
And that's largely what the excuse you get when you're talking about disclosure for a lot of these things, particularly like aliens, which has been a great topic that's been coming up quite a bit recently. the whole argument is that if you say that aliens are real, it destabilizes all the people that believe in religion, which I don't believe in that entirely. I think that
Agreed.
if there is a God, this is a Jimmy Church nod right here, because he had this conversation the other day with Avi Loeb, who is the physicist or astrophysicist, I believe.
Yes.
Who discovered the Humana Wanaubi or whatever, that huge.
I know what you're talking
was
about.
supposed to be a rock that was coming through our solar system, and all of a sudden had a hard turn to get out of here. Could have been an alien spacecraft at some point, but again, not a conspiracy guy at all. Not even really much of a believer in anything. But thinks that there has to be extraterrestrials. But in that
Sure.
episode, they were having a conversation with, or one of the many. Jimmy kind of positioned a question that really rung with me, and he said that when I talk to my friends that are a little more religious than I am, I ask them, if God, whatever you believe God is, doesn't matter. If God had the power, the strength, the ability to create Earth and to create humans and to create species, right? Why would he have just done it once?
Right.
Why wouldn't he? Wouldn't it be ignorant to think that he wouldn't have created multiple species or multiple planets? I mean, you can see none of them are denying that planets don't exist.
Sure.
So maybe God still can exist, and he's the creator of everything.
Yeah.
And just it's localized here, so it doesn't detract from the idea of religion, because there's a lot of people that believe in that are a little more spiritual, that believe that in reincarnation, or your soul is an entity, it's an energy being that goes back in the universe. Can't the greater aspect of the greater plane of the universe, can't that be what we perceive or what we believe to be heaven, or hell, I guess in some cases too,
Right.
that infinite battle, and our presence here is just, that is what the simulation is. The simulation now becomes us being here, living through this in a physical form, whereas heaven is just that overarching, the wrapper that the universe is. So it was an interesting. I think I was staining a railing at the time, so it was a very philosophical conversation that I wasn't expecting from Jimmy Church at that particular time, and not what I was expecting to be listening to while I was staining a railing and breathing in fumes. I thought I might have been tripping a little bit, but taking it back to the flat Earth, that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. Is it becomes almost a religion for a lot of these people, where they want to be told that they're in a glass ball, that there's a creator just sitting up top controlling the strings, and that they seem to all be tied heavily to religion. We came out of that obviously not believing it at all.
No.
Neither of us. I don't think we went in there believing it. I don't think we came out of it believing it. And I think we tried to dispel a lot of what was in there. And in reaching out to people, try to get somebody on here that would have a civil conversation, didn't seem to work. Everyone kind of flaked out that we asked.
Yeah.
At the ninth hour, and it's what I found is that the big players in that space too, what they do when they talk about flat Earth and they try to prove their theory, is they talk really fast and they use a lot of again, I hate to beat the crap out of the word pseudoscience, because I feel like it's kind of a negative connotation, and it's used to crap on people, and I don't think that's always the intention.
I know what you mean.
But they do use a lot of pseudoscience, or specific words or instances that you're not going to be able to look up on the fly, right? So you sort of take them at their word, and they describe a scenario, ask you rhetorical questions, kind of, again, plug in the spaces, pardon the pun, on the missing aspects of the theory, and then just keep going really fast. So you don't really have a chance to digest it. And so by the end of it, you think holy crap, that might be real. But after you've heard it 3 or 4 times and you've got to research it, well, not really. That doesn't.
Yeah.
There are some things like NASA, all their pictures from space are fake. That was a mind blowing fact to me. We found that multiple times. It doesn't make it mean that we're in flat Earth there.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what Flint Dibble did with Graham Hancock on Rogan when they had that debate, right? He used that exact same tactic. He just tried to speak quickly and just kind of use these words and kind of just spit as many facts as he possibly could at. And in the follow-up episode, when it's just Graham and Joe talking about the quote-unquote debate that he had with Flint Dibble, he even, Graham even said, hey, I kind of came out of that conversation kind of feeling, and I'm paraphrasing here, but kind of feeling pretty badly. I kind of thought, oh, wow, he, maybe I was wrong. And then after he had the opportunity to go back and kind of research what Flint had said, he was like, oh, dude, he's full of shit. 99% of what you said was complete bullshit. So you're right. I mean, a lot of people do use those tactics, and unfortunately it does happen to be a lot of that flat Earth space.
That's why I kind of like hate debates for that reason, because it's really about got you moments rather
Right.
than a conversation. Like I like having conversations, and maybe you explore something together where
Sure.
it's kind of soft, it's very directed. But when you're in that kind of, and not that I guess kind of the Dibble Graham Hancock piece was a little bit debatey. That's kind of what it was set up like. But it was, Flint was very much in a got you. So he wanted to get Graham.
Oh, yeah.
And wanted to, and he did. He did really well at it. I mean, I think I even commented in some of the group chats we had that, like, Flint came out of there looking. Graham looked like an idiot in some parts of that. Flint looked really strong, but like you said, it's the after effects.
And I was going to say, in the follow-up, I mean, for anybody, and you know what, this is what's unfortunate, right? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't follow it as closely, and that might have tarnished Graham's, reputation a little bit. You and I follow that very closely. I mean, to me, I think that's the most fascinating theory out there. So, I'm one of those that got to watch that follow-up and hear what Graham had to say and listen to his retorts after the fact. But a lot of people didn't, I mean, how many millions of people watch the Joe Rogan Experience, right? They don't watch
crazy,
every
man.
single one.
Sometimes that's all that needs. Like, if you only have to watch, like, not everyone's going to have the time to do the extensive research, right? Which is, again, like another reason that we wanted a show like this is we're trying to speak to those people. You don't have time to sit here and research thousands of things. And when you ask the question in like a Reddit sub, everyone flames you. Do the research. Well, if I'm trying to do the research. For all the people that are out there, tell me, there's thousands and millions and actually, the largest number, here's a fact for you guys. The largest known number is a Googleplex. Now, why do you think Google named itself Google? It wasn't just a made-up word, folks. It was after a Googleplex, which is the largest known calculated number, because it has a Googleplex results, pages of results. So go and Google something and get a Googleplex pages and then come back and tell me to do the research. The point to carrying on a conversation is to share that research, share those insights, and let people make a decision for themselves. And they don't always have the chance. So to your point, Tim, is when you do have a show like that does show point counterpoint, which I love. I love the idea of that. But if it's done incorrectly or if it's done maliciously, which I think Flint was really doing, he wasn't there to have a conversation. He was there to got you on Graham, and he did that.
He was there to shit on Graham. That's all he was there for.
Some people came away from that, and they'll never watch those follow-ups. They'll never watch anything Graham because now they shunned him, and they don't know all the drama that's went on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
I want to move on, and I want to talk about probably the most mind-boggling conspiracy theory that I think we covered, and it was early on. And we've mentioned 1,000 times too that we didn't expect to get any guests when we started the show. We expected it to be the two of us, and that was the goal around it too. Is that two of us can talk. We do talk all day every day, but we can continue to talk all day every day. We always have something to talk about, and make it really easy. And if we got guests, great. That would just kind of give us a little bit of a break. But when we started this thing, we had guests right out of the gate, and I think I'm looking at it, our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Out of our first 11 episodes, I can keep going after that. Our very first one was sort of a preview, so that was just the two of us, so maybe you don't count that. But we had the MK Ultra episode, which was episode 101. That was just the two of us. Then it was us again, and then we had a guest.
Oh, dude, we had guests all over the place.
We were just hammering through guests, which was crazy. And really cool that people were willing to talk to guys that were just kind of starting this up after what was 2 episodes that we were able to show ourselves. But with that also came conspiracies that we never really considered. And that was some of the fun for me, I think, going into this, is we always knew we were going to come across things that we were not aware of. And one of those things for me was the Shakespeare conspiracy.
That was our first guest, right?
That was our very first guest. Yep. And so the conspiracy, which is episode 103, we just kind of coincidentally found a guy named Alan Tarica on X or Twitter. And he was kind of ranting about this like Shakespearean conspiracy theory. And I don't even know how I stumbled across it at some point. But I was just like reading it. I thought, this is weird. It's fascinating. We're starting a new show and we want to have original content. Let me shoot this guy a message, and he agreed to come on here. Yeah. Masked his identity, which was also kind of a challenge for us, especially on our first guest. I didn't know people would think about it. The episode did really well, surprisingly, and there's a lot of people interested in it. But the conspiracy basically says, again, episode 103, It's called the Oxfordian theory and the Prince Tudor hypothesis. There's kind of like a combination there. But it basically says that William Shakespeare really wasn't a real person, that Edward de Vere, who was the Earl of Oxford, which is why it's the Oxfordian theory, had a scandalous relationship with Queen Elizabeth I, basically wrote all these poems and plays, and if you read them in a certain order, it's basically outlining their romance. And if you go back and look at some of the Shakespearean plays, it's doing the same thing, like Romeo and Juliet, two families or two lovers that their families kept them apart, which is literally what happened. They end up having a kid, and the kid's kind of this bastard child, and he's kind of lost in the fluff. And in any case, it was a fascinating interview that not only was it like completely new to us, it actually, somebody reached out to me later and asked me to be on their show talking about Shakespeare. And I did that, and it was a fun talk. But I said to the guy beforehand, I'm like, I know nothing about this outside of my podcast. And he's like, that's all right. It's fine. And I think I've even asked you, and you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to contribute to that much. So, but it was fun, and it's mind-boggling that is a legitimate war that is happening in
that community,
like English literature, right? Remember those episodes?
What it makes me think of, somebody once said to us, you're gonna run out of conspiracies one day, right? Yep. Like, why are you calling it the conspiracy realist? Like, one day you're gonna run out of it, dude.
Yep.
You're never gonna run out of conspiracies, right? Because conspiracies are really just mysteries. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of them. We could do this till we're 95, and we're never gonna run out of them.
And you can kind of beat up on a lot of the same ones,
sure,
over and over again. So, for that Shakespeare one alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's Shakespeare, right? The William Shakespeare story. You can believe that on the scene. There's the Oxfordian theory. But there's also like variations of the Oxfordian theory. Then if you look the other side, there was a woman that was, I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long time, and that is not one I'm an expert on. But there's like 5 or 6 other variations of other potential. There's a groupthink one where there's a group of people. There's ones where like Shakespeare doesn't exist as a person at all. Like it's an, what's the word that they use for like a ghost name or whatever?
Like a ghost writer.
Like authors used to use like different pen name. Stuff. A pen name, yeah. There's so many theories now, which I had no idea there was even one, and there's like a half dozen of them.
Dude, I had never heard of this theory to begin with. In fact, when you first brought it to me, I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? We're gonna talk about Shakespeare? Like, what? I've never heard of any kind of conspiracy surrounding Shakespeare.
So fascinating. And you know what I find? I find a lot of parallels in that, because I still talk to Alan fairly regularly. You know, maybe a couple times a month or something like that. He'll send me some documentation that comes up, some news that happens. We'll have a little conversation there. Super nice guy, super intelligent.
Yeah.
Especially in his space.
Alan was great.
And it draws a lot of parallels to me to a lot of the ancient architecture stuff, where you've got these, kind of these historians and these literature scholars that they're married to their ideas, and they won't stand to have somebody bring any shred of doubt. And it's the exact same happens. Like, you have these not architects, but
archaeologists.
Why am I drawing archaeologists? Yes, I was in the
Close
same
enough.
You got these archaeologists that are doing the same things, the Flint Dibbles of the world, that won't stand for the idea that somebody else is coming in and questioning a narrative. And and I've actually said that to Alan, like, it's so fascinating for me as an outsider from that to watch, like, the parallels are identical. It's like, oh, I get it. You spent your whole career doing this, and you always get the same excuses on both ends too. It's like, well, did you study your whole career doing this? Or were you out there, in the literary sense, were you out there reading all these different works or in the archaeologist space, were you out there scrubbing sand off? Well, no, but you were also doing what you were told to do because you were paid to do it. It's like when it's like when sugar companies paid for studies to say that sugar helped your health. Like, well, clearly we proved that wrong. Cigarette companies did that too.
Yeah.
People that have the money are the ones that direct a lot of these decisions. So it's fascinating to see that parallel in a lot of different senses, but particularly those two. Within the slew of guests, who's your favorite?
I was just going to say, please don't ask me who my favorite was. That's just, I can't come up with a favorite.
Who's one that stood out to you the most?
Todd, because he's a wackadoo, and I love him. And I say wackadoo in the most endearing way, Todd, because Todd might be one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And his capacity to recall information completely off the cuff
ridiculous.
is mind-boggling. We were talking about recall before. Todd doesn't use notes. He doesn't have a notebook in front of him. He doesn't have a Word document up on his screen. That's in his brain, dude. Like that man is just talking about shit that he knows. And I could barely. Look. It's we just came off of Christmas, New Year's break. What I mean to tell you, I genuinely didn't know what day it was for a good portion of that. I'm telling you the truth. Like that's the difference between myself and Todd. And so, Todd, just every time we talk to him, blows me away. And look, a lot of times Todd will get me to a place where I'm like, dude, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. We need to back this up several hundred steps so you can, speak to me like I'm a child. But he's a fascinating dude.
Todd Feehan, he was in episode 104, which was The Secret Authors of the Bible, 105, The Shocking Identity of a One World Government. That was really a two-part, or it was one episode. We just kind of split into two parts there. Ironically, in the midst of that 3-hour conversation, his wife sort of dropped in because we were asking him. At the time, in the beginning, we were doing like a 20 questions thing, and we were asking, just basic stuff like your thoughts on aliens, your thoughts on the afterlife, things like that. And his wife chimed in.
Yeah.
So we had a whole 20-minute off the script talk with her. I was like, can we just bring you on for an episode, because we started talking about astral projection.
Yeah.
So he and his wife were on there. That was episode 112 right there. Todd ended up coming back. Oh gosh, much later.
Well,
I don't have it here. Well,
he
I guess
came back for the
Antikythera.
Antikythera.
And we couldn't launch that one because it kept getting booted out of there.
We put that on some platforms though, didn't we? Well, I know obviously it wasn't
I didn't
YouTube.
put it up anywhere yet. So I still have it. Yeah, I'm going to strip it down, and once maybe our strikes go away, I might try to slip it back in there as a really stripped down version. Because I think the conversation about the Antikythera mechanism is really, really cool. And I've heard it a lot, actually. Again, I heard it pop up in the Y-Files recently. I was floored. I actually messaged it to Todd. I'm like, dude, this is what you're talking about. And I'm seeing it come up more, so I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it's gaining some steam. But to your point, this is a guy master plumber, and if you looked at him, you just think all right, this guy's just some jabroni that just spewing off crap. But if you sat down, and this is something Todd even said to us, people don't take me seriously when I try to talk to them seriously. We did, because again, he was just commenting on interesting things, and he sent me some videos on, I guess, his YouTube channel. The information was just dense. There was so much of it.
Yeah.
And I just said to him, Todd, I get what you're getting at here, but if I'm not 100% focused, there's no way I can wrap my brain around some of this. And a lot of that had to do with the Secret Authors of the Bible. The Antikythera mechanism is a block of time, basically. The premise of that episode was this block of time that seems to be missing from our history, and why that might be, and what could have caused that type of stuff. And this is a guy that's sitting here researching all this stuff. He's knowing all these ancient Greek names like Ptolemy, and just putting a lot of pieces together. Again, there's plenty of speculation there. He's the first one to admit some of that. But the guy is a genius. The guy's a genius. Masked as a plumber is one of my definitely one of my favorite.
Genius masked as a plumber. I like that.
It's crazy. If you had put this guy in a science lab instead of giving him a wrench, maybe if the situation was different early on. I almost wish, because Todd's retired at this point. He sold his business. He's doing really well for himself. He's looking for work, basically, to keep himself busy, not because he needs it. And I almost wish he can walk into one of these big colleges, or these these big physics departments or something, big historian departments, and just be like, hey, can I just talk to you guys for an hour or two, and then just share his knowledge? That gets you, give him the interview.
He's like Terrence Howard.
Your socks off. He's like Terrence Howard.
He's like Terrence Howard, that kind of right, just a super smart dude. You know what I mean? That has no schooling in those specific subjects, but is undeniably incredibly intelligent. You can't have a conversation with Todd
until you talk to him.
Right. You cannot come out of a conversation with Todd, and you might not agree with his premises or his theories, but you cannot come out of a conversation with Todd and not think that man's intelligent. It's highly intelligent.
It's wild. And it's one of those too, just like you said, there's sometimes he's talking, I'm like, because, well, again, he's another guy we talked to very rare. I was actually talking before we hopped on tonight. He was just telling me we're just catching up a little bit. I haven't talked to him in a while. But I got to tell him, dude, you got to slow down And even with the Antikythera mechanism, we talked about that for like 2 months. He's like, I really want to talk about this. And I said, Todd, we got to strip this down. Like, I can't understand this. Our audience certainly isn't going to. But a fun guy to have on here. I think one of the most impressive guests that we had on for me was Matthew Scow.
I was just thinking of that myself. Yep.
Yeah, he launched the documentary, died suddenly.
Yeah.
We had him on for a good hour and a half, communicated with him for probably half an hour before, half an hour after. What a nice, humble guy with a great head on his shoulders that's really looking to just, I'm reluctant to say change the world, but that's what he's trying to do. But he's just trying to get information out there.
I was going to say,
decide for himself.
He's trying to shed light on things that he feels are very important to everybody, regardless of your race, color, creed, or where you reside on this earth. It impacts everyone, and he just wants to share that information.
Yeah. And the fascinating story about him, again, that's episode... Well, it looks like this is like the area where I wasn't labeling them all, so I gotta go back and edit myself on YouTube.
What I thought was going to be probably our biggest episode was actually wound up doing terribly,
among the worst. It's
for some reasons, which if you're listening, you could probably figure out why.
Yep. And it's exactly what happened to his documentary.
Stuck in the shadows.
At certain points in Black Farm, it got shadowed a little bit in different areas. It's fascinating because that documentary he put together was literally nothing but news clips.
Yeah.
And there was very little, I guess it was suggestive in a way, but it was very little speculation or very little in the ability to mislead you because it was just quite literally showing news stories and then people commenting them and then having experts talking about them that are like experts in the tops of those fields.
Right.
What a groundbreaking documentary.
People with 30 plus years of experience in their field, right? That are saying, hey, I've never seen this before, right? I did it for 29 years, and on year number 30, this is when I started to see this stuff. Like,
right. And even I would encourage you all to go check out like Robert Malone and see what his credentials are and his involvement in this particular scenario. But what I really liked about Matthew is that like when we reached out, he jumped up. He couldn't have been more willing to talk. And this is a guy with millions of followers online, and he was talking to us like we knew us for 30 years. And we'll be respectful.
Sweetheart of a guy, man.
As long as you guys want.
He was so nice, dude. He was so nice. Yeah. And to your point, like, we're nobodies. Like, we're crumbs, right? When it comes to, somebody like him who has millions of people following and watch the documentaries that he put out. So, the fact that he took the time out of his day to have a conversation with us was just like, holy shit, man. Like, I just wanted to say to him, like, dude, why are you doing this? Why are you talking to us?
Well, why'd you say yes? He said he really liked the production value, which is, a lot coming from a guy like that who's got a hell of a talent for this stuff.
Is there anything that we didn't get to cover that you wish we would have?
This year?
Yeah.
See, that's kind of a loaded question.
We had a few things kind of like fall through.
Plenty.
Right.
Pat Tillman, we were trying to cover that for months. It just kept getting bumped, and honestly, it got bumped because society gave us a lot more with P. Diddy, with Epstein Island, with the drones, like
the assassination. We had to fill in and move stuff.
On Donald Trump. Well, we just started moving it just because like these were hot topics that were going on, we ignored them when they first happened because there wasn't a lot of information and we didn't want to come on and just speculate. That's not what this show is being built to do. But then it came up so much that it's like we had to start talking. We were talking about it so much, we were consumed by it, especially the drones and things like that. I mean, it's gone for the most part now here in New Jersey, but that is a real thing. And when we recorded that episode, we posted that 3 weeks ago. From the date we're recording this right now, it's 2025 now. So by the time you all see this, it'll be 4 weeks ago when we posted that. So we recorded it a couple days earlier than that. Within days after that happened, things escalated even more than what we had when we recorded it. And we waited 3 weeks to record it the first time. You're still having sightings of drones periodically or like anomalies in the sky.
Yeah.
I'm not at all, but you are.
I'm a little bit closer to the water than you are. I'm literally 5 blocks from the Tons River, and I'm probably half a mile from Seaside. Well, technically, like if you draw a straight line from my house, I would hit Island Beach State Park, and so that's where a lot of the sightings are in terms of these things coming off of the coast, and so I still see a lot of them. And put it this way, dude. Like I've always looked at the skies. I've always loved space. Always been super interested in that. I love looking at the stars. You know, so I always look at the skies. And there's, you know, I've certainly paid more attention as of late because of this. And
Yeah.
I think I've kind of gotten it down to the point where like I could look at it and be like, definitely a plane, definitely a helicopter. No fucking idea what that is.
Yep.
Like I've looked at it so much.
And it's funny because you've literally taken videos for us.
Oh,
sent it
dude,
in our
I've
group
taken
chats.
so many videos.
Guys, this is a helicopter. Can everyone agree with that? Do you hear how loud this is?
Yeah.
Here's a drone. Do you notice how you can't hear shit anymore?
Yeah.
And it couldn't be more obvious that, you know, you post it online, you get jerk offs that darn. I literally, I posted
that was so
to
frustrating.
anybody that said this, dude, so frustrating. I'll pay you $1,000 if you can come here and tell me what those are. To anybody that wants to come to New Jersey, because you got all these armchair quarterbacks that are sitting at home, and I just almost cranked my back again by just waving my hand around, pissed off. But these armchair quarterbacks that are sitting at home and trying to say that like thousands of people, including us, that are in New Jersey are just seeing planes and helicopters. Okay, hypothetically, let's say that was true. Why are there so many of them
Right.
riding in circles all
Right.
over the state?
Well,
I don't
exactly.
care what they are.
Exactly.
Why is all of a sudden there's so many of them only at nighttime? There's
It
nothing in
got
day.
to the
day is
point-
completely empty.
yeah.
There's nobody flying.
Well,
today.
dude, I took a video, right? I was fishing at the river, right, for a good 2 hours, and I took a video, I sent it to our group, and I just kind of like panned the sky of the river, and there was nothing in sight. Not a single plane, not a helicopter, not a little a recreational drone. There was nothing.
Yep.
Explain to me why as soon as the sun goes down, right, it's almost fucking lit up. It's
sky's lit up.
literally
Yeah.
lit up.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned it, right? Even if they're not all drones, and I know they're not all drones, right? I know that some of them are planes and some of them are helicopters. We're not saying that everything that's flying around New Jersey is a drone. Like, we know that's not the case. But it got to a point, and it's not so much like this now, but I'd say probably 2 weeks ago, 2 to 2.5 weeks ago, like if you just looked up, there was shit flying everywhere. You look at any corner of the night sky and there's something flying all over the place, right? And again, they're not all drones, but why? Why all of a
Why is there
sudden
so
is
much?
there such an incredible and dramatic increase in air traffic at nighttime? It just doesn't make any sense. It's weird. It's fucking weird.
Oh man, it's this year 2024 has been the gift that keeps on giving with some of these conspiracies because I mean, it really felt like from August through kind of December, all we had was news story after news story after news story
dude.
that sort of broke. I mean, to your question before, we had Pat Tillman scheduled, which is something we wanted to release in November.
Yep.
Because that would be anniversary there. It's something we're still going to get to, and this is why I'm saying it's a loaded question because I think we'll get to it.
Right.
I've been desperate to talk about like time travel on a larger scale outside of just the John Titor story, which we have scheduled and we're hoping to release that very soon, potentially our very next episode right there. The Challenger. You know, the actual ship that went up and exploded.
I want to
There's
do that one.
something with the dude. That's again. It's another one that's on our calendar now.
Yeah.
We're hoping to have that released in time for the anniversary. The anniversary is the 28th of January. We're hoping to have that out for you guys by the 23rd, so you can kind of get caught up on it. Once you see all the narrative come out in the news, you can come back and watch the episode a second time and be like, oh yeah. But that's another one. We wanted to record that months ago, and we even kind of pushed it off a couple times because we wanted to have it ready to repost again for the Challenger thing. But now we're up against a time crunch here. But things like that for me, there's plenty I wanted to cover. And that's sort of the fun of this and sort of why I laughed when at the comment you were referencing before of, aren't you guys going to run to conspiracies? There's so many like ways to go. And it's easy to talk about things for an hour, like celebrity lookalikes, the guy that looks and sounds exactly like Elvis Presley and is preaching down south. Like that's pretty freaking strange.
Yeah.
Or just like the ideas of like some of these people that look like clones. Like there's a girl whose mother is the she was like the president or founder of like a satanic cult, and she looks identical to Taylor Swift, or maybe it's
to Taylor Swift.
Halloween,
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
one of
so
the
it was
two,
the daughter of Antoine LaVey, who was the founder of the Church of Satan. I don't remember what his wife's name
there you
was,
go.
but yeah, Antoine LaVey.
so
Looks
like, that's another
exactly
one.
like her, dude.
Exactly, right? And so it's like, all right, well, that's super odd. But then you've got a string of like other celebrities that are borderline twins, like the Jamie Presley,
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie.
Oh my God.
There's a couple other ones that are mixed in that too. But like that's
Two
another one.
smoke
Like, I think
shows.
that's a really cool one. These don't all have to be crazy deep conspiracies for us either, and that's part of the fun of what we've done. The past couple months have been dark and crazy because the world has given us dark and crazy. The P. Diddy nonsense, the chaos that's going on with that.
We're gonna have to do a follow-up and include Jay-Z.
We're gonna, right? Well, that's it. It's like that's another one. It's coming
Exactly.
down the pipeline. Like, it's gonna get a day. But like that spins off into Epstein Island, which was probably our darkest podcast we've ever done, which is very unsettling.
Yeah.
That's not going to go away. More of those stories are going to start to come out. Especially when Trump gets into office, I feel like there's going to be a lot that boils over in other aspects. But we don't want this to just be, a government conspiracy channel. That's why episodes like the Ghosts episode was so much fun.
Yeah.
That's why episodes like the Time Traveler or Ong's Hat, New Jersey was so much fun.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was a good one.
Remember that one? It was one of the
Yeah.
few New Jersey ones that we actually can claim fame to outside of our drones one. Now,
Well,
which is
yeah, now we're
hot
now
topic
we're really
now,
famous.
But there's so many cool things like that I think that they're right within grasp. And I have a list on my phone of just like words, phrases, and names of things that I want to talk about. I mean, we talked about astral projection, remote viewing. We touched on remote viewing.
We're gonna
But
bring
I'd
my
love to
brother on
get
for that.
a remote viewer.
We're gonna get
What,
my
for
brother
remote-
on for astral projection. So I think
We did astral projection already.
I know.
You wanna do
but
another
I
one?
want to do a follow up at some
Okay.
point. So I forget what episode it was. It might have been the alien abduction episode that we did. We had referenced people that have oh Jesus Christ, what do you call it? Sleep paralysis. And like,
Yes, yes,
hey,
yes,
like
yes.
what's the possibility that these people that are experiencing these abductions, or is it really just sleep paralysis? So my brother has always suffered, it's not like every night, but has suffered from sleep paralysis. And he came to me, I don't know, maybe about a week or so ago and was like, dude, he's like, I figured it out. He's like, I astral projected the other night. He was like, I was in sleep paralysis. It was beginning. He goes, and then all of a sudden, he's like, I'm telling you, he's like, I shot off into another dimension, man. He's like, I was flying through the stars. He goes, it wasn't a dream. I was awake. He's like, I'm telling you, I astral projected. And I didn't really have like a super deep combo about it with him. So I kind of did that intentionally because I
was just going to say, thank God.
I did that intentionally because I want to bring him on and I want to kind of talk about it. And I want to hear all
I
of
would
that
say
for the
we
first
get
time
on
from him.
sooner than later.
Yeah.
Get it out of his mind so it doesn't lose his mind at all.
Yeah.
And maybe going into, that would be awesome. Yeah,
Well, he's followed up and said he actually was able to do it again. So it's something that he's
Well,
kind of like
that-
conscious
that
of
would
now,
be-
and he
that's
was
good.
able to do it the second time. Yeah.
Dude, they say once you're able to harness that
Yep.
stuff, you can do it more and more.
Yep.
But that's like another example of like, that's how come you don't run out of conspiracies. We had one person on that talked about astral projection. Now we can have somebody else on that's had a completely different experience or just a different scenario or a different story. It's the same thing about alien stories. Mike Mulligan was a guy that came onto our
Yeah.
show and he would tell us all that everyone thinks I'm crazy. For the last 10 years, I've been trying to tell my story. Nobody would listen to me. I came onto your show and you guys listened to me. And he was so relieved to get it off his chest. And we always say, we've said this on this show, we've said it privately. I don't know if he was telling the truth. Neither of us do. But he believes it.
Right.
And if nothing else, whatever happened to him is very real to him. And that says something to me. And there's a lot of those stories. And when we did our alien abduction episode, which, because I've got to do some shameless plugs right here, modern day alien abductions, that was episode 134. That was 2 episodes ago for you out there. We've done a couple of them.
Could
Mike
be doing a
Mulligan
little
was
better. Go
actually-
watch it. Go give it a watch.
Go give it another watch there. Mike Mulligan's was episode 110. So there's a big gap between our alien episodes.
Yeah.
We weren't trying to be an alien channel either. That's the thing. We're trying to be really stretched.
We steered away from aliens for a long time. We didn't want to touch that because we
Very
felt like
long
this space was so saturated with alien stuff.
And it kind of is. Yeah,
It
it's
is
always
Yeah.
saturated.
Dude,
with that stuff.
I've been so hardcore on the aliens lately. Finish your thought, but I've been so hardcore
that's
on
the
the
problem.
aliens
Is
lately.
so have I. So have I. The issue that we encountered though is that you always get the same exact alien stories. There's only like 5 or 6 that you can really see out there. And there's plenty of them out there, but
Sure.
all you ever get covered are the main 5 and 6. Like the Travis Walton ones are always the big one. We just did the New York one. I mean, it's just the Betty and Barney Hill,
Right.
Roswell. It's the same stories all the time. Mike Mulligan's was something unique. It was something different, and that's what we're trying to look for. Your brother is now another version of an astral projector. There's plenty of people out there that can do stuff,
And he's crazy
Remote
too,
viewing's
so,
another one I
you
wanna
know.
dive into too. Well, it could just be out of his mind, you know. And that's the other thing too, is like sometimes we're not ruling out the fact that there's other things
Yeah.
at play here. We're not just taking everyone at their word. We're just listening to a story. We're trying to have
you
a
know what?
conversation.
That's the
You guys
thing with
be
the
judge.
that's the thing with the Mike Mulligan story, right? Like, who the fuck are you and I to sit there and judge Mike Mulligan on what happened to him? You know what I mean? Like, I'm no better than Mike Mulligan, nor are you, and I'm not here to pass judgment. I mean, do I have an opinion as to whether or not, you know, what he says happened to him exactly as he said it? Yeah, I have an opinion on that, but it's his story, man. I mean, it's you know, and my God, one of the nicest guys you ever met. I mean, the dude was a sweetheart. I mean,
Super nice guy. Yeah,
just a
I
fucking
enjoyed
gem of
talking
a
to him,
guy. Oh my God, he was great. He was absolutely great. You know.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, to have the balls to come out and really, you know, to say what he said on this platform where literally millions of people could hear him. I mean, it's a vulnerable thing to do. You know.
It's a vulnerable thing to do, and it's funny because when we released that episode, it immediately shot up to one of our top episodes.
It did, and I was shocked.
At that point.
I was shocked.
And the irony is, so like the only other episodes, and I'll use that plural, that we had that aggressive of viewing. Now since then, like our MK Ultra has been really, really well popularized, but it was really the 9/11 videos with Richard Gage. But Richard Gage has a massive following, and so those shot off because we had a little bit of help from his name value.
Sure.
Nobody knows who we are. Nobody knows who Mike Mulligan was, and all of a sudden we had all these views on that episode and plenty of comments saying just that, like, this is a cool story. Like, you don't have to believe everything you hear on here. The idea is to have good stories, have good conversations, and let people feel like they can tell us their story without being judged.
Yeah.
We're not here to we're not debunking people. That's garbage. I hate that term.
No.
I think there's, even if he didn't have a physical altercation with somebody, right? If he imagined that, right? If it was all in his brain, where did that come from?
Yeah.
We talk about your brother too, right? If he had that astral projection, where did that come from? How does that happen? I've mentioned many times where I've personally remote viewed, or what I think is, could they have been hypothetical guesses or really educated guesses? Absolutely. I've very vividly dream. I say all the time, like, I have dreams that I feel like are living a second life. Like they are in sequence, like they come after one another. It's very wild. They continue. There's nothing crazy happening. It's just like living a life.
Right.
Why? Where is that coming from? Why is it coming from?
Well, dude, I told you.
Asking those questions.
I had a very, and I called it a spiritual experience probably a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Like, where did that come from? I'm not a
Like
spiritual
the outer
person.
body experience.
I'm not. That's not me. I consider myself to be a pretty practical and grounded person. I like to think in logic. I'm not. I was raised Catholic, and this was not a religious experience. It was more spiritual in a sense. But I'm not like a rah-rah, earthy kind of get in touch with yourself and feeling like that. I'm the antithesis of that. Like, I'm a dude that's like, you're a man, deal with life, shut the fuck up and do what you gotta do. Like, that's my normal attitude. So for me to have that very enlightened experience, I came out of that like, and by the way, I was not on psilocybin, I was not on ayahuasca, I was not on LSD. I did smoke marijuana, but it was very bizarre and dramatic. And so, like, where does that come from? It was you know, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
If we end up hearing enough of these stories, at some point, somebody, maybe you or I, most likely somebody else out there who's much smarter than us watching these episodes, are going to see some parallels in them, in something from them, and might be able to say, hey, listen, like, you guys are all having different experiences, but like, maybe this is what, maybe this is the connecting powder. Maybe this is how human consciousness is getting unlocked.
Maybe.
But I don't know. That's the fun of it for me. I know it's certainly the fun of it for you, or I think it's the fun of it for you. And hopefully for our audience. I hope that's something that you guys thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, hopefully they're enjoying
as we head into 2025, you sort of asked me, you know, are there's things that we didn't cover that I wanted to? I want to reframe that question.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward 2 trying to cover in 2025?
Jack the Ripper, baby. Because that was supposed to be...
Oh, man.
Jack the
First
Ripper
episode.
was supposed to be our very first episode. You have a friend
Yes.
that is very studied on that theory. And I've always been
I forgot about that.
infatuated with Jack the Ripper. When I was 10, I went to visit my aunt who was working and living in London at the time. And we went to a place called the London Dungeon. I saw it on like a billboard and I'm like, oh, let's go. I want to go. The London Dungeon. That sounds really cool. And essentially what it was, now mind you, I was 10 years old. It was essentially the scariest fucking haunted house you've ever been to in your entire life. Okay. And with live actors doing jump scares and this and that. But the theme was you were brought into this room and you were on trial. There's a judge sitting there. And these were all live people, actors. There's a judge sitting there and you're on trial for, being Jack the Ripper. And so the whole theme of it is Jack the Ripper. And I got so scared that like my aunt and my grandmother had to like tell the actors like, hey, like we need to leave, like please bring us to the exit. I was 10 years old at the time, right?
Oh my God.
So like I was like scarred by that experience.
Yeah.
And because of that, as I got older and really learned about Jack the Ripper, because I had that experience there, I became infatuated with it. I loved the story. And I've always loved history. I've always loved the Victorian era. I think there's something just kind of cool and neat about that period of time. I'd love to, if I had a time machine, that's certainly one of those periods that I would visit. And so all of that combined, I love the Ripper story. I just think it is, I think it's fascinating. And I was so looking forward to talking to Tom about that. And hopefully we can get him on one day or somebody else and we'll do it. We'll talk about it.
I'm making this a call to action to you, Mr. Butters out there. If you're listening, this is your chance. You're supposed to be on the first season. We want you on the second season. I'm going to have to email him as soon as we get off here, or text him or something, let him know. We're ready to have you on. Because I know he's got a whole bulletin board of everything.
Yeah.
And he always says, like, when he's getting ready to do it, he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I'm ready to go. I just got to brush up again. And
it's a lot. It is, it's one of those things similar to, we were talking about the Zodiac earlier. There's a lot of information. Like, there's as much as there is about the Zodiac, there's just as much about Jack the Ripper. So, in Tom's defense, if you're not like actively, like really super engaged in it at that point in time, to come on here and talk about it for an hour, 2 hours plus, it could be a little daunting and somewhat intimidating. So, I don't blame him. But Tom, start reading your shit, buddy. I want to talk about it.
Besides Tom Butters, is there a dream guest for you that you hope we could land in 2025?
Oh, it's got to be Jimmy Crissetti, baby. It's got to be Jimmy Crissetti.
I knew you were going there.
I love the talk
Bright
to Jimmy
Insight 6.
Crissetti. Oh my God, dude.
But if you're listening out there,
phenomenal.
tag at Bright Inside 6 on X. Tell him to get his ass on Cocktails and Conspiracies. Tim's a big fan. I'm also a fan, but not as big as Tim.
What I love about Jimmy is that he kind of reminds me, and Jimmy, by the way, if you ever happen to hear this, which I'm sure you won't, but if you do,
he's going to be a subscriber this week. I'm guaranteeing it.
Please don't be offended by what I'm about to say, but he's kind of just like us in that he's not an expert, right? Like Jimmy didn't go to school to be an archaeologist or study the things that he talks about. He's just an intelligent guy who does his research and is interested and talks about it and makes some really valid points. And I think that's why I resonate with him so much. I love his work. Love to have him on.
Yeah. Yep. I think we're going to see a lot more of that as we kind of enter this new era of conspiracy, is people that just ask the right questions. I think the era of experts because you studied it is kind of going away.
Yeah.
Not right away. It's not gonna happen overnight, but we're seeing that in like the workforce as well. With some Google's got these certificate programs. I talk about it a lot in like my business life, that they're condensing like 4 years of college into a 6-month degree, which cuts out all the nonsense and just gives you the stuff you need for mostly digital type jobs like digital marketing, development, stuff like that. But I think we're going to see that kind of extend out into a lot of arenas. People are doing that with their own health right now, with their own wellness. They're taking that into their hands. They're doing research. They're acting more holistically. That's not by accident. it's a product of trust in certain existing systems, and I think as that trust sort of deteriorates in that old hierarchy, if you will, you're going to see a lot more people or a lot more sects, I think, kind of build up around people that research themselves, they kind of group think a little bit, and again, they're asking the right questions, and it's not always. Speaking in the case of Corsetti, it's not always trying to posture something, or like Graham Hancock, we used him as an example before, not trying to say this is the truth.
Sure.
But just saying, why is that the truth? Right? Question everything. And that's really, in my belief, how science should always be.
Sure.
I don't care what we think we've proven. We should always be asking why or why not.
Yeah. You mentioned something.
A little philosophical for this podcast, but
I think it was right on point. You mentioned something that I want to spin back to you. Do you feel like, I'd say within the past few years, I feel like I kind of already know the answer to this question, but I want to ask it anyway. Do you feel like you have been searching for more holistic methods in regards to health?
Unequivocally. Yep. No questions asked. Yeah. And I can say with the utmost confidence that many of those methods have worked remarkably better than the, treading carefully on verbiage here, on the accepted methods.
Sure.
Of which are recommended to you. That's not to say that I still don't use those mainstream methods.
Right.
I do regularly. I use it for my family, whatnot. I'm not off the grid or as a hippie, as a friend said today when I gave him a honey recipe to clear his throat out.
I use that
do
recipe.
Find, I've had 3 people use it already within the last 2 days. People are coming back to me and saying, "Whoa, it's starting to work." Like, it's not going to make everything go.
Did it work for Ponytail?
Everything go away, but well, I'll find out tonight.
All right.
I told him
All right,
yesterday. He was getting everything today. He was at the doctor's today. But yeah, I think that for me, as I've moved towards those things, I'm finding increases in energy. I'm finding less side effects.
Yeah.
I'm finding less reliant. I've never been a big, I guess, traditional medicine type person anyway. Like, I don't really take Advil if I have a headache. I just sort of dealt with it. Never really drank coffee, so never really had to deal with those types of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I think for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a ripple effect. I think that's going to be in everything. Because now, once you find out, this is very much akin to conspiracy theories.
Sure.
Once you find out that something works well, that's not what you've been told your whole life, then you start to question everything else.
Yeah.
The simplest, most ridiculous example that I can give, and you're going to love this, is for our audience, back in late August, I started using a salt crystal as deodorant. So ridiculous. Now I am a sweater. My body, I just sweat standing up in the summer. Like, if it's hot, I'm sweating. My shirts are always drenched. It is what it is. My body is that. So I stink a lot.
You are a sweaty bastard.
So I've went through a lot of different types of deodorants, and I just find that they don't very much work. And after a while, they used to redden my arms. I was trying everything.
I think I got you 2 shirts for my wedding. Pretty sure I got you 2 shirts.
Anytime I would have to do something like that, I'd have to bring an extra shirt. Like, I just, in mindfulness, one for pictures and then one for everything else afterwards. But in any case, I spent big money on deodorants, and then I happened to see Matthew McConaughey never uses it. I'm like, not for nothing. I'm like, this is a good looking guy, seems relatively well groomed, has certainly had his fair share with the ladies. I'm like, I feel like somebody would just say this guy stinks like shit if he was never wearing deodorant. And I looked into it more, and was it Jennifer Hudson? No, not Jennifer Hudson. Maybe it is Jennifer Hudson. Who's the girl that was the little blonde that was always in the movies?
No, you're. Oh, Jesus Christ. No, it's not
Jennifer Hudson.
No, it's not Jennifer Hudson. It's
come on,
Kate something.
Oh, Kate Hudson.
There you go, Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson. I got the Hudson right. So Kate Hudson says in an interview that, so basically he got her to start doing that too. And what they use is a salt crystal, and I started using that. And I tell you, this is like a $4, $5, $6 block. It's like it's literally a rock, a salt rock.
Yeah.
And you put it on. There's no lines. There's no irritation. There's no scent. There's no nothing, and it works like a charm. I've used it exclusively for 6 months, and it hasn't went down a towel. I would have went through like $15, $13 sticks by now, and that's like, it's a small example, but it is in unlocking to why isn't everyone using this?
Yeah.
It's the cleanest thing you could possibly put in your body. It's funny because when I used to lifeguard, I would never put on deodorant in the morning. It was a waste. I was going in the water all day. And if my pits started to smell because I'd go in the stand, I'd go in the ocean and just wipe them down with salt water. And I'd be fine. Like, that was my deodorant all day. And then all night, I would never stink. I mostly went through the summer without wearing deodorant. I never understood why. And then it all clicked for me. Like, no shit. Like, your salt is like your just natural deodorant. It's cleaning up the odor from your body. And, like, that was just a small little example, though. But, like, why aren't you aware of that? Why is there industries built around this stuff? And I'm not saying it works for everybody. I'm not going to say it works in every situation. Have an extra stick, folks. Do your
But it
own
works for
judgment.
you.
But it works for me. And, you know, the honey recipes and stuff like that, the holistic stuff, it's like, as I've changed a lot of things in my life, I'm realizing, like, there's things that cost remarkably less and work significantly better. Well, then the natural next question is, well, what else? So, I don't know.
For
I think it's gonna be
anybody-
an interesting...
Anybody that's not watching and just listening, I've been sitting here with this huge grin on my face for the entire time that Shane has told this story, because I, in turn, started using this same salt deodorant. And what I mean to tell you, I was so blown away by how well it worked, I can't stop talking about it. Like, I try to find a way to work this into regular conversation with the random people. Like, I was at a 40th birthday party for a good friend of mine, like, 3 weeks ago, and I was talking about it to, like, groups of people, like, yo, you gotta use this deodorant, because it's just so, like... I can't believe how well it works. It's fucking mind-boggling. I'm rubbing salt on my pits. I don't
crazy,
stink.
man.
I'm not sweating. It's amazing. And granted, I didn't have I'm not a prolific sweater. You know, like you are. I don't have that same issue. But you know, on a normal day, using regular deodorant, by the end of the day, dude, playing video games all the time, I would go, "Ooh, my pits kind of stink." Right?
Oh, I stink like shit, yeah.
Yeah, I've been saying it all the time. And now, dude,
Smell good now, baby.
Nothing. It doesn't smell like anything. I'm not sweating, nothing, and it's just fucking
No
salt.
streaks on your shirt.
It's
your shirt
amazing.
doesn't get hard
Dude.
underneath your armpit because it's got deodorant all over it.
If that
I
brand
have
doesn't
shirts that I
sponsor us,
love.
if that brand doesn't sponsor us, I'm fucking throwing it in the garbage.
I want to go out and just make my own company because it's like the only brand out there. That's how convinced I am from it. And
I
we have
know.
a mutual friend that's at the gym every day, and he's just bought it into it.
Yeah.
And he's seeing the same thing. Like, everyone that used it is just they're like blown away by it. It's I was saying, I just cleaned out my closet for, you know, the winter. I get rid of a bunch of clothes every year, just trying to clean everything out. And I have a bunch of shirts that I got rid of just because, like, the pits. I love the shirts, but the pits are either hard or like a little discolored.
They're all
I'm like,
discolored just
from
from
years
being
of
gross.
deodorant.
Yep.
They're
Yeah,
just
exactly.
gross. Like, this ruined my shirts. Like, I would never be able to wear a shirt twice. Not that I've wore this shirt twice, like in a day in a row. And now there are like days in the weekends, like I'll put on a shirt like this, and then like the next day I'll just like, well, the shirt doesn't stink at all. I'll just put it back on. Like, if I'm not doing
dude.
anything, or if I know I have to like change later today to better clothes, I'm not gonna waste 2 pairs of clothes. I'll just wear this shirt again until I have to get dressed again later.
I would do that all the
just
time.
crazy, man.
When I had to go, because I work from home now, but when I had to go into an office every day, I wouldn't like wash my collared shirts all the time or get them dry cleaned all the time. I would wear them, and if I didn't, you know, drop a meatball on them during lunch, I'd hang it back up and I'd wear it again. But sometimes when I'd go to iron it again, I'd iron the pits and I'd be like, oh my god, that's fucking
stink
terrible.
like
I
hell.
can't wear this shirt. Like, there's no way. Now, I mean, I guess it's not the same scenario because I'm not doing that, but I'm willing to bet if I was using this salt deodorant
a
back
lot
then,
better.
that wouldn't be the case.
Oh, Crystal, if you're out there listening to us, we're ready for that sponsorship.
I mean, dude,
this is one off
we
the
just
rails,
gave,
ladies and gentlemen. but I
we
hope
just
found
gave
something in
you
it. So we're
we just
raving
gave you,
endorsement.
Crystal, the most raving endorsement you've ever heard in your fucking life, man.
I'm gonna clip this and send this out.
Oh
to
my
them.
God,
I'm gonna clip
dude, you
this whole
gotta.
5-minute
You gotta.
clip, and this is going to you guys, and you guys are gonna become our sponsors now, our first official ones outside of our own little businesses here.
Well,
our own pockets.
To bring it home a little bit, I asked you that question because I think what happened 5 years ago and the next couple of years after that really changed a lot of people. I know it changed me. I know it changed you. The way that we look at the world, the way we look at information, the way that officials give us information in any capacity. And I think while I still stand by the fact that it was the greatest atrocity ever committed against the human race, I think that it actually kind of, in retrospect, did a lot of good. Because there are so many people out there now asking questions and not simply just nodding and taking the official narrative as it's told to us, that I think that that's a good thing. That's an overall good thing, that more people are engaging in conversation, more people are asking questions, and questions and conversation are always good. There's never a situation where that's a bad thing. So, that's kind of where that came from.
Whenever I see an opportunity to throw in a quote from like a superhero movie or show, I do it, and this is one of them. The night is always darkest before the dawn. And I think that that summarizes or accents exactly what you're saying right there. It's an awakening for society. I'm excited to be part of it. I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of crazy shit to come out in our lifetimes that maybe we would have only dreamed about not very long ago. So we're excited to be on this journey with each and every one of you. We're excited that you're on this with us and showing your support. Just today, we posted up on our socials that we broke over 800 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is really freaking cool. Would have never expected that. We've talked to other people on other shows that have been doing this for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and have not even broken 100. So to see over 800 for us, 831 as we record this. I was hoping to hit 1,000 by the new year. We're a little off because we were a little thrown off by our latest. Our second mark.
If we didn't get some slaps on our hand and been thrown to the shadows, I think we would have been there already. But we would have been there
so
already.
how about by February 1st? We want that 1,000
But
subscribers.
Before we go, one more dream guest. James Fox, dude. You're a Jersey guy.
That's a new one for you.
You're a Jersey guy, dude. I'm all over James Fox right now, dude. I'm so hard into all the stuff that he's been doing. That was the strangest comment I've ever made. Please don't take that out of context, dude. James Fox, if you're listening, please come on our show, dude. I'd love to have you.
I think he's a very attainable guest. He seems like a really approachable person.
Seems like a great dude.
If we can find his contact details, he might be interested for sure.
Let's go play some video games.
With that. Yeah, I was going to say, with that said, ladies and gentlemen,
we got to go play PUBG.
Subscribe, follow us. If you want to pub with us, you're welcome to join us there too. We're not Twitch streamers. You can actually play with us. I don't think we're ever getting to the Twitch thing unless you guys really want that. Pubbing and Conspiracies can be a spin-off show if you guys make this big enough here. But please do like, subscribe, share it with a friend. If you're on Spotify, drop a comment in there. You can comment on each individual episode, rate them for us, drop us 5 stars wherever your podcasts are. And we're excited to be back in 2025. A lot of great things for us. You heard the new music. We got some new graphics, some new animations. We're hoping to have a whole lot of great new guests as well, including some of the wish lists that Sim has. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, raise your glass for mysteries. It's been Cocktails and Conspiracies.
Hi.